Hi, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to my sewing room. If you're here for the first time, welcome, and welcome back. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for watching. Today, it was recently my birthday. And for my birthday, I asked for, not just for my birthday, but over time, I wanted a collection of sewing books that have a whole bunch of different patterns, but they're vintage patterns with a little bit of a modern twist using what we have today, because vintage stuff, like the vintage fabric, is like, you can't hardly find it if at a decent price, at a cheap price. I don't want to spend a ton of money on my fabric, so anyways, we are using Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book. So it was a collection of Gertie's books. She has 5 books. Turns out I got them all for my birthday. Anyways, that's okay. It was a surprise, and it was nice because I have a lot of sewing I can do now. And a lot of reading. I've learned quite a bit about everything vintage sewing with modern tools. So that's been fun and interesting. This, however, will be my first pattern out of any of the books. I've read 4 out of my 5 books, but on my birthday, I also got to pick out some fabric, and I've been just looking for the perfect fall dress for a fabric that I got. I'm calling it my sunflower fabric, but it's got sunflowers and pumpkins and late summer, early fall stuff. And I'm really excited. I would show it to you, but it's currently in the dryer. So today we're using Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book, and we are making what Gertie calls her cherry corduroy dress. I'm not doing any variations on this dress since it is my very first dress of her out of her pattern and her fitting and all of that stuff. I am sticking right to what is in the book so I can learn the little tricks with some of her stuff. Also, since it's completely new sizing, unlike my other book that I've made a couple dresses from, I got all of my pattern pieces for this dress traced and cut out, and I currently have all of my pattern pieces all of my pattern pieces in fabric cut out, and I'm getting ready to make a mock-up. Due to the sizing of hers, I had to, for my personal measurements, my bust is a little bit smaller than her size 12, so I'm between a 10 and a 12. So I just used the 12 because I can easily take off a little bit from the seam allowance. But then my waist and my hips are between a 14 and 16, so again I moved up to a 16, but because the bodice pieces go right into the waist, I actually had to do the grading on those pieces, and it's hard to tell in the picture. I'll hold it back up again for you. It's hard to tell in the picture, but that is a princess seam dress. I love princess seam dresses, but I've never made a princess seam dress, so figuring out the grading and on what seams, if I had to grade on all seams, and the side pieces are kind of a wonky shape that I have never worked with, so I had to, and the sizing is kind of all wonky too. If I had the pattern pieces out, I would show you, but they're overlaid or overlapped with other pattern pieces, so that's kind of confusing too if you don't know what you're looking at. So I don't. Anyways, I think for the most part, except for the center piece, I did, which actually might come back to bite me now that I think about it, but maybe not. I graded the center piece as well. The front center is on the fold, so that got both side seams, but that actually might have changed the seam that connects to the side front pieces. I think, if I remember correctly, I only enlarged the side seam on those side front pieces. So my bodice actually, now that I am thinking about it, might not fit right. Anyways, I am at the step now of sewing together my bodice pieces to get the correct fitting of the bodice, actually. And since I have the 16 at the waist, that'll go right into the 16 skirt, so I'm not worried about that. So I am going to go ahead and sew my mock-up together, and I will be back for some fitting issues to see what I can show you. Okay, so I just finished my mock-up, and I actually just finished ironing my fabric for my dress. My mock-up somehow fits just fine. I didn't try the sleeves, and I obviously didn't do the skirt, so those might be a little questionable, but I really don't think so. I'm gonna double check the hip width on the pattern size to make sure, but I'm almost positive, especially since the skirt's pleated, that it should be fine, because I think I have 80 inches of skirt for the pleats, so it should work. And I also didn't mock up the sleeves, but I measured it, and so they should be more than big enough. So my fabric is this quilting cotton, but it's one of the nicer keepsake cottons, so it's a bit softer. But I really love this for fall. And I also have little sunflower buttons that go really cute with the fabric. So I'm going to use these as fake buttons on the front of the dress as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out all of my fabric pieces and my interfacing pieces for, I think it's just the facings that need interfacing. So I'm gonna cut out all of those, and I'll be back when it's ready to start sewing. It is time to get started. Ouch. So the first step is to stay stitch the neckline, and that would be these two pieces that have the neckline on them. So here and here is where I will be stay stitching first. Alright, I am just going to use a regular stitch length for my stay stitching today. That's finished. That was kind of messed up, but that's okay. Next step is to do the princess seams on the front and the back. So I'm starting with the front. I gotta make sure I have tension on my seams from now on. Starting with the front, and these right here are the princess seams. So that's what we will be doing. Okay. So the trick with these seams is we have to snip the seam allowance here so that it will stretch with to this. So we need to match our notches. And match the bottom here top. I'm actually gonna do the top at the end because that is a lot of easing and stretching, so I'm gonna do that. And then there's a little bit of ease here that you have to ease in with pins so that it will be flat. And I kind of just estimate how much where the middle is, and then I'll fill it in with pins this way. To clip this piece here, and don't go in too far into the seam allowance. You don't want it to end up cutting the fabric that's going to show on the other side, but we're going to go all the way up. Because that will then allow this piece to stretch over. So I'm actually just lining up the little pieces here with the raw edges and stretching it to fit as we go. And then it'll actually lay flat. If you don't do this, the seam puckers really bad. I had to get on YouTube. Thank you for other YouTubers and their tutorials, since I'd never made a princess seam dress. I had to get on there and actually see. Since this is a Gertie pattern, I actually looked up Gertie's videos and I found a princess dress video and I watched those seams, and this is how she did it. So the directions say to clip, but I didn't realize you clipped all of it like this, so I didn't really know that. Use a lot of pins for this, but it's okay because it does make it neat at the end. Got it all pinned. It almost exactly matches. Not quite, but I'm not worried about it. It should come together just fine. So now that it's all nice and pinned with 8,000 pins, now we're gonna go ahead and sew. This pattern does have a 5/8 inch seam allowance, so that's what we're using. and make sure that will lay nice and flat once I iron it. I'm also going to go ahead and notch these curves here, the inner curves, to get rid of the bulk for this seam allowance here. It'll help it lay flat when I iron it. Will say I don't love doing this because I am notorious for clipping through both layers and the layer that should not be cut at all, and so I don't want to do that. I'm trying. So it's all clipped, it's all notched. I now have to do the other princess seam here, and then I will do the back, same thing, and then I will iron all 4 seams and I'll be back. Okay, so my next step, hold on, let me show you what I've got so far. So far, the front and back bodices are sewn together. So this is a back piece. I don't have the stripes lined up, but I'm really not worried about it. It makes it kind of fun and funky. And they're not like solid stripes, so it's fun. And here's my front. Oops, there we go. It is shaped, but it's kind of concave because I haven't actually put it on my body yet. Okay, I usually like to do the inner facing at the beginning if I can. And so I do have both of my bodice facings cut and interfaced already. That was the first thing, one of the first things I did. Reading the next step of the directions, it actually has me stabilize using iron-on interfacing for the zipper part, which will be good. That way it won't stretch really, because it's a little bit stretchy on that side. So this will keep it from stretching where my zipper is. So I just did about 1 inch. I didn't measure it, but I kind of just looked and went, yep, that'll be good. So I have that on both my back pieces where my zipper is going to be. Now, I'm also not completely following all of the directions for this pattern, but only slightly, because so it had me trim and finish my seams, which I trimmed and I zigzagged my seams together, and then I pressed my seams. But it also says to top stitch the princess seams so that your seam allowance is caught under the top stitch. But I don't really want top stitching on this. I really like it without it, so I'm not top stitching. I just ironed it. Okay, so then it says with right sides together, so the shoulder seams and the bodice side seams. So I'm going to do that, but then it's also the neck facings. So I'll stitch my facings together at the shoulder seams and finish the lower raw edge of the facing unit. I'm not positive how I'm going to finish that edge. I might just iron it. I don't know. I will probably iron it and roll that hem up a little bit. I think that's what I'll do. So that is my next step. Shoulder seams, side seams, and then start working on the facings with a rolled hem. I'll probably do the rolled hem and then stitch them together, but I'm not positive. It does say to finish it after they're stitched together. Actually, I will stitch them together, else those shoulder seams will be really, really bulky at the ends there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then the next step when it comes to attaching the facings, it has a different... I haven't completely read it, so I'm not sure that So we'll see. I'll be back when it comes to attaching the facing to the bodice. Okay, so I have my facing all nice and ready to go here. It's not perfect, but it's not bad at all. I'm quite happy with it. So, as I said earlier, the next step is to attach the facing. Okay, I'm not quite sure where my video cut off at. I noticed it pretty quick. So, now I still have to attach the neckline, or sorry, the facing to the neckline. So I will match the shoulder seams, and you have to put this on as you would for a lapped zipper. So I'm just going to match my shoulder seams, pin it around that way, and leave whatever is left over just hanging there for the lapped zipper. I'll double check the directions in the book on how to do that to make sure that I get my ends correct. But I think I just leave them there. And then it says to press the facing to the inside of the dress. I am also going to understitch the seam allowance to my facing. That way I get that nice crisp edge. Once I'm done, I'll be back. Okay, so the bodice construction is pretty much finished except for the sleeves. This inside out, but that's okay. The facing for the most part lays flat, but for some reason it doesn't completely, which doesn't bother me too much because I'll just tack it in. I'll figure out how to do that. Onto the shoulders probably, and a little bit up front. I'm not positive exactly, but we'll figure it out. So the next step is the sleeves. So I need to stitch the underarm seams. So I'll stitch those and I'll zigzag finish and trim them. And then set them into the armholes, which I think it says, see how to do that on page 42. I'm pretty sure I need to just gather the top of it. Yeah, I do. So I need to, where you at? Well, it says to ease it, but I like to use gathering stitches because I think it's a little bit easier than just pins. So I'm gonna gather the tops of my arms, of my sleeves. Yeah. The picture shows gathering stitches. The directions do not say gathering stitches. So I'm gonna use gathering stitches probably from notch to notch on my sleeves, and set those in as well. So once I get the sleeves done, I'll be back. Okay, I have my bodice completed now. Sleeves are attached. The spacing is not going to stay in, but eventually it will once I get this thing put together. So here is somewhat my bodice. It's kind of hard to tell the shape just because, so I'm not really too worried about it. Okay, so now it says the next step is my inseam pockets, which I am going to have, but I also have a pleated skirt, and I don't really want my pockets to get in the way of me working on my pleats, because other than the couple pleats I did in my faux wrap dress way back when, not too far, but far enough. That was the only time I ever did pleats. So I want to have kind of a blank slate when I work on my pleats. So I'm skipping the pockets until my pleats are done. And then it also says to stabilize the zipper opening in the skirt with fusible interfacing. But I'm going to wait on that until I get my pleats done also, just to make sure I don't put facing over where my pleats need to be. Interfacing over where my pleats need to be. Skipping those two steps, the next step is to form the pleats in the skirt front and back, which I have all nicely drawn. See if you can see it. Excuse me. There we go. In that nice blue tailor's chalk. So it says to form the pleats in the skirt from front and back by bringing the marked lines together following the arrow direction, which I do have on there, kind of hard to see. Arrow direction. Let's see, this arrow right here is facing this way to my right, maybe your left, this way. Sew a line of basting stitches along the waistline to secure the pleats in place. So that is what I am going to do. This is the front of my skirt. It is still folded in half right now. There we go. It's the front of my skirt. So I will do that on the front and the back with the basting. I will also put the fusible interfacing for my zipper, and I will attach the pockets to the skirt front and back. So that's not sewing the pockets together or anything. That is just attaching them to the side seams of the skirt. So I will do those 3 steps and then I'll be back. All right, I have all of my skirt pieces done and my pockets are attached. I am really quite proud of these pleats since it's the first time I've ever done pleats. I love it. So that's the front of my skirt. I have the back of my skirt behind me. The next steps are to put the skirt panels together. So the back seam up to the zipper notch. I have a zipper notch on the back, center back of both. And so that's where I stitch my seam together, and then the zipper should stop right there. I did add the interfacing to both my back pieces. So I will do the back seam to the zipper, and then the side seams and the pockets, obviously. And then the step after that is to attach the skirt to the bodice. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back for the other details because I have a lapped zipper that I'm doing. There's also a waistband bow, and I've never done that, so that'll be kind of fun. And I have some fake buttons, which I think I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to sew on. I won't be doing that on the video, but I'm going to lay it out and figure it out, and I'll show you my idea before I completely finish the dress. So I will be back. Okay, I got the dress put together. This facing still is flipping up, which that's fine though. So the dress is put together. The zipper is in. It's not a lapped zipper the way she explained it, but I'm actually quite happy with this kind of lapped zipper where I literally just fold the seam allowances on the back in, press it, and then sew the zipper to it. I really like that. So the next thing I have to do is, according to these directions, you actually stitch the facing to the dress with the machine. So I'm gonna have a line of stitching here, which, you know, I think it's fine. I kind of wanted to follow the directions for this dress and to see how it was going to turn out anyways, so I'm going to go with it. Plus it's going to take a lot less time than hand stitching, so I'm going to do that. I still have to hem the bottom of the dress, the skirt of the dress. The sleeves are already done. I did that when I did the sleeves because I didn't want to do it while it was attached to the dress. And then I have to make the bow, which is just a ribbon, and I didn't get the same ribbon that is in the directions because they didn't have it. So I may be back to show you the bow, or I may just do it and then explain it because I've never done it and it's kind of confusing. So I'm going to stitch down the neck facing and either come back for the bow or do the bow and sew on the buttons, and I'll be back with the final product. So we'll see in editing. So I've had my dress done for a little over a month now. I do really like it. It turns out I really should have mocked up the sleeves. As you might be able to tell, I cannot even get a grip on these sleeves. They're very tight on my bicep, but they are, thank goodness, comfortable on my elbow. Right now the fabric is a little bit stretched out from wear, but when I did first put it on, it was very tight at the underarm holes. Like, it's right up in my armpit. I have absolutely no space there, so I have to figure out if I just need to lengthen that armhole a little bit or what. I've done another pattern of Gertie's and I have another issue with the armhole there too, so there's something with the Gertie patterns and armholes in my body. I think my arms might be a little lower or something. I don't know. I gotta figure that out. But with this, and actually my other dress, within probably an hour, the fabric stretched out and it's actually quite comfortable to wear. The facing obviously stays down really well because of the stitching. It does add a little bit of a detail, especially since I used to red stitching on this instead of the same color. Like, that was just a design choice for me, since I knew that the hem of my sleeve and the hem of my skirt would be seen. I actually did want a contrasting thread color, so I decided to do the same thing up here, and I do like it. It adds a little fun touch, makes it look more of a round neckline. I don't know. There are a couple puckers in it, as like some of these wrinkles are actually from the fabric stretching as I'm wearing it, but there are a couple folds actually in it. I didn't get it completely flat, but that's okay. That all comes in practice. I'm not too worried. The pleating was actually pretty easy to do, and I really did enjoy doing that, learning that skill. I don't absolutely love pleated skirts on dresses, or just pleated skirts in general, because of the bell shape that they give you. But I do like this dress, so I'm sure, and I had fun pleating, so I'm sure that I'll be doing some more pleating in the future. I don't know, overall I really like this dress. I really love the fall pattern. It is great for August, September. It's even the beginning of October right now, and I wear this dress a lot. It's really good with a sweater. Put a pair of tights underneath it, a tank top or something, like an underlayer if I need to, and it's still, if it works out really good for the fall. Next week you'll actually be seeing another Gertie pattern, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you do want to see more, like my, oh yeah, the ribbon, by the way. So this ribbon, I was supposed to get like a ribbed ribbon, but they didn't have that in this color, and this was the color that I was really going for. I kind of had my heart set on it. I went to multiple stores and I could not find it in the color that I wanted. So this is a wired ribbon. I would not suggest getting a wired ribbon because it pokes me, and there's like a wire poking out in front, and so it pokes anybody that I give a hug to. I've poked multiple people in the belly when I give them hugs, so don't put wired ribbon in dresses. Alright, so if you like this, go ahead and hit that like button. If you would like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and please come back for more.